Hi, I'm Chandler Garcia. As a PICU nurse and global health advocate, I've cared for women and children all over the world, from Costa Rica to Egypt to Kenya and beyond. And no matter where I go or how tough the conditions get, I always wear my FIGS. These scrubs are lightweight, breathable, and super soft, perfect for long shifts in any environment. They've got pockets in all the right places, the fit is flexible, and they're durable through every admission, surgery, and post-op. But it's not just about the scrubs. Another big part of what I love about FIGS is when they say they're committed to supporting healthcare workers all over the world, they mean it. I recently joined them on an impact trip to India where I worked in triage, caring for babies in a mobile clinic. My FIGS aren't just what I wear. They're part of the impact I want to make. Wherever my work takes me, FIGS helps me show up ready to make a difference while looking and feeling my best. Get 15% off your first order at wearfigs.com with code FIGSRX. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX.
A warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peters, and now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson. He does great work over at Underdog Fantasy. Along with that, the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. We have to chat with him about these Elite 8 games, just the great coaching that we've got remaining in the NCAA tournament. We'll talk a little bit about the North Carolina coaching search as well, how big that is going to be this offseason, but we have a lot of great games at hand, so we're going to be chatting about that and so much more. Had to do this before the Elite 8 matchups got official with regards to the games that were played on Friday, but we speculate a little bit on those as well. And then in the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on both Elite games for this Saturday as we hit some bank shots. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @unit_D1. Keep in mind, Lars, the name does not matter, so per usual, please send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but that said, we had ourselves some amazing games on Friday. Let's take a look back at them, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
St. John's gets the cover, but Duke, they advance to the Elite 8, 80-75 the final. For Duke, just 5 of 14 from 3. Caleb Foster, he returned in this game, and he made a big impact, 11 points, 5 of 8 off the bench. For Duke, just 15 out of 24 at the free throw line. St. John's, 4 of 8 at the charity stripe, so that was costly for both teams. But for Duke, they do go 13 out of 32 from 3. Ian Jackson was 1 of 7 from 3, so take out Ian Jackson. Everyone else went 12, and if math serves me correct, 25 of 3-point range. And for Zuby Ejiofor, 17 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. For St. John's, they did a solid job winning the turnover battle 9-6, but lost that rebound battle 40-27. As for Cameron Boozer, double-double once again, 22 points, 10 rebounds. Isaiah Evans, he was able to supply 25 points. So for Duke, they survive, they advance. So does UConn, who will be facing off against Duke. They win 67-63 as Michigan State won pretty much every aspect of this game. They win the rebound battle 39-30. They play even up in the turnover battle 10-10. But for Michigan State, they go 4 of 16 from 3. UConn, 9 of 21 from 3-point range. Terrace Reed, 20 points, 5 rebounds. He led the way for UConn. Alex Caravan, 17.7 rebounds. And for Michigan State, they go 13 of 18 at the free throw line. UConn just 10 of 16. That nearly costed them here, but for Michigan State going cold from 3, that very much hurt them, even though Jeremy Fears had no fears with 7 assists, 13 points, but 4 turnovers, a little bit costly out there. Tennessee, the big upset of the night, 76-62. They take down Iowa State. This game was 34-33 at the half. Tennessee just mauls on the glass. Win the rebound battle 43-22. No Joshua Jefferson. Big issue here for Iowa State. Iowa State did get 18 points apiece out of Nate Heisey along Tamon Lipsby, but just a combined 3 points off the bench. Milan Mimoselovic, only 6 points in this game, 2 of 8 from 3. Iowa State, 5 of 23 from 3. Tennessee, 7 of 22 from the outside. Josiah 15 at the free throw line, but Iowa State, 15 out of 25 at the free throw line. Tennessee does lose a turnover battle 17-11, but winning that rebound battle was big, and Jacoby Gillespie, he was big as well. Did have 5 turnovers, but supplies his team with 16 points. Felix Apara, double-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds, and Jalen Gary, double-double, 11 points, 10 rebounds, and then Michigan actually trail at the half against Alabama, 49-47. They completely ballroom blitz them in the second half, though. 43-28. They outscore Alabama in the second half. They win 90-77 for Michigan. 13 out of 27 from 3. Alabama, 14 out of 47 from the outside. They hit 14 threes, so they shot 30% from three. As LeBaron Filan, he goes 6 of 14 from three, 35 points. Yeah, Latrell Wright's supply 15 points. Nobody else at 10 plus. So that was a big issue for them. Yaxel Lendeborg, big performance here. 23 points, 12 boards, 7 assists. Elliot Kadu, he was able to supply 17 points, 7 assists for Michigan. They do lose the turnover battle 8-7, but they absolutely dominate on the boards. 46-32. They win that battle. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in college basketball right now, it has been an unders and underdog season. For the unders are hitting at 50.7%, 2,909 unders, 2,824 overs. Meanwhile, the underdogs still hitting at 51%, 2,952, 2,780 against the spread. Meanwhile, in the last 7 days of college basketball, we've seen the underdogs be neither here nor there, 18-17 against the spread for them, and the unders, they have been coming through, 21 unders of 14 overs. So that's where we're seeing college basketball right now. That's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's take a look at these Elite Eight matchups with our good friend Rob Donaldson of the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets right here on Coast to Coast with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family podcast.
Hi, I'm Chandler Garcia. As a PICU nurse and global health advocate, I've cared for women and children all over the world, from Costa Rica to Egypt to Kenya and beyond. And no matter where I go or how tough the conditions get, I always wear my figs. These scrubs are lightweight, breathable, and super soft, perfect for long shifts in any environment. They've got pockets in all the right places, the fit is flexible, and they're durable through every admission, surgery, and post-op. But it's not just about the scrubs. Another big part of what I love about Figs is when they say they're committed to supporting healthcare workers all over the world, they mean it. I recently joined them on an impact trip to India where I worked in triage, caring for babies in a mobile clinic. My Figs aren't just what I wear. They're part of the impact I want to make. Wherever my work takes me, Figs helps me show up ready to make a difference while looking and feeling my best. Get 15% off your first order at wearfigs.com with code FIGSRX. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX.
Inside Edge this college basketball season? Well, VSiN experts use CBB Analytics, the most comprehensive college basketball analytics platform in the world. See injury impact, on and off data, clutch time performance metrics, first versus second half splits, and so much more. Utilize the promo code of VSiN, that is VSIN, to get $30 off and find your betting edge over at cbbanalytics.com. That is cbbanalytics, all one word.com. For anyone that is new to VSiN, well, I wish you a friendly hello. This is an attention to anyone that is new to VSiN because you're able to get some free stuff with our daily newsletter. It's a great way to catch up on everything that's happening in the sports betting world. It's delivered straight to your inbox every single morning. VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, strategies for the day's betting menu, and so much more. Sign up for free today over at VSiN.com/newsletter. That's VSIN.com/newsletter, and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That is VSIN.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man. We've got Rob Donaldson aboard. He does such great work over at the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets, and it's especially special to get him aboard because he's a man out there in the great state of Iowa. As we know, they've got one team in the Elite Eight. By the time this uploads, they might have two teams into the Elite Eight, so good, clean fun there. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also doing some great work on the baseball front over at Underdog Fantasy as well. And Rob, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. And the last time we saw each other, man, we were watching Iowa take down Florida, and there was a game in between then. Iowa took down Nebraska on Thursday night. So it's been a crazy run as a fan of the team, and even just a better tournament overall. We'll see what happens on Friday, but ultimately what we have for Saturday is just, I think, two really, really fun matchups out there in the Elite Eight.
Absolutely. We'll start with those, and then we'll try to speculate forward a little bit more as we do have the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's about a 6.5 to a 7.5 point underdog against Illinois. The lone time these two teams met up in the regular season, Illinois got the job done, but you know this as well as I do. Ben McCollum, such a great coach, so good at making adjustments, and he was able to already put the clamps down on a really good rebounding team in Florida. How do you take a look at this matchup with an Iowa team out for revenge and a Final Four appearance?
Yeah, I think if you were an Iowa fan or just somebody who was wanting to back Iowa from a betting standpoint, coming into this game, you're looking at that Illinois-Houston game and thinking, I don't know who I want. Maybe Houston, maybe Illinois is who I would prefer if I want to back the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I kind of settled into the idea of, Illinois is the devil, right? You have game footage on them. You've already played them. You have the matchup strategies of being able to kind of be ingrained in the Big Ten and know what's going on. And, when you're looking at this game in particular, I do feel like Iowa is playing their best ball of the season right this very second. And we've seen them go up against physical teams with this type of structure of a team that's going to be in your face, grabbing boards, being physical down low to get the O boards. And that was Florida. And we know what Iowa did to them. It is going to take, again, just Iowa being scrappy down low, not getting pushed over. I think that has been their mantra. And this line being at like a 7.5, 6.5 out there, maybe we even see this thing get up to 8 closer to tip. I think it's kind of a wait and see kind of line rather than betting it early if you want to back the Hawks. I really like the number. I don't think that maybe the money line is in play. I would love to believe that the money line is in play, but ultimately, I think over 2 possessions is where you want to be for back in Iowa, and I do think they keep it within the number ultimately here.
And I do think that total right around about 137.5 or so is so interesting as well, because you've got two teams that are very slow in control, but two teams that have been incredibly efficient on the offensive side of things as well. How do you lean there? Because I do think that whether or not it goes over might be dependent upon the late fouling.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think when you look at both Bennett Sturts and Keaton Wagler, two guys that really haven't asserted themselves as like the scorer, the perennial scorers that we've seen from them in the Big Ten play, heck, even in non-con play. And then ultimately, my brain kind of goes this direction, law of averages. Eventually, these elite scorers are going to be elite scorers. It's just one of those unavoidable things. And ultimately for Iowa, it's been the complementary pieces. For Illinois, it's been kind of a conglomeration of a bunch of different guys kind of just doing their part and handing down the buckets on the offensive side when they can score. The last couple games, it's been a little bit of a grind. And so I think when you are talking about that 138 number, ultimately, in my eyes, it feels very perfectly placed. But if you can somehow get up to that 139, maybe 140 flat, I think that's where you go ahead and you buy in on the under, because there is a scenario where both teams or one or the other team just goes completely cold in this game.
Yep, and we've got ourselves an all Big Ten matchup in the Elite Eight. Don't see that very often, as we do have our good friend Rob Donaldson, who does such great work over at Underdog Fantasy, joining me on Coast to Coast Hoops. And how do you take a look at the other matchup that is currently set for Saturday with Purdue, another team from the Big Ten, taking on Arizona, who I'd argue has been the best team in the NCAA tournament thus far. Right now for Arizona, they find themselves as a nice size favorite of 5.5 to 6.5 points, but I do think that the Big Ten has really shown through well this season. And with Purdue, I think that it's such an interesting team, because with so many of the top teams remaining in this tournament, they're built around their low post play, while Purdue is actually built around guards.
Yeah, and ultimately, the nice part about Purdue's run so far is, their low post play with Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough, it's actually been given an opportunity to shine out a little bit against some smaller-ish teams. I mean, Miami's not too long in terms of like the depth pieces that they have with size. Texas isn't either. Queens obviously didn't have that size. Well, now Arizona has, I think, the perfect counter and then some for the size bullying that was kind of going on in the first a few rounds there for Purdue. And heck, even the last 2 times out for Purdue against Miami and versus Texas, despite them not really having the size on the boards to compete, they were hanging right there. Those were competitive games almost all the way through. Got a little bit dressed up against Miami, but that was a one possession truly down to the game. If you watch the flow of that thing for 37 minutes, when you are looking at Arizona here, to your point, they've shown that they can run a gun. They've shown that they can kind of play at a slower grinding pace against play and already in this tournament. And I do feel like from that standpoint, this is just kind of knocking on the door of an Arizona blowout win, similar to the fashion that they showed against Arkansas, but maybe just a little bit less scoring. And so, yeah, I see that 6.5 number out there, and it's almost too appetizing, but I'm willing to jump on the Wildcats, and I think that there's an upside for a 15 or 20 point winner here as well.
Yep, with Arizona, they have been absolutely knifing through teams. Myself would pick Purdue to win the national championship. Would love to see Purdue win this game, but man, that is going to be a tall, tall task, to say the least, as Rob Donaldson, who does such great work with the Rob's Best Bets show, joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And as we are doing this, things are not settled quite yet in the other two regions, as St. John's and Duke are doing battle right now, but I think that's really interesting what happens in St. John's versus Duke, because I think regardless of whoever wins Michigan State versus UConn, I think the winner of that game goes to the Final Four, and I do want to get your thoughts there because I really feel like St. John's was underseeded as a 5. Duke, I know that they've been banged up, but getting back Patrick Ngongba, I think is very big for them, and with Duke and St. John's, I think that defense just wins out against whichever team they face off against.
Yeah, it's very interesting about the East region because we knew it was going to come down to this. The 4 elite coaches, right? St. John's with Rick Pitino, Duke, John Shire can say what he wants about his pedigree right now, but he's been winning. And then Michigan State, Tom Izzo, UConn, Danny Hurley. And the thing is to your point, St. John's was underseeded from the jump. If you told me that Michigan State, UConn, and St. John's had the same seed line coming into this tournament, I would have believed you if I didn't know the actual structure. And here we are. We have all 3 of those teams in the mix with Duke. This is one of the ones where coaching matters so much. The talent you have on the floor obviously matters a lot as well, but we're seeing it with Ben McCollum in Iowa. We're seeing it with a number of guys making runs. We'll see what happens with TJ Otzelberger tonight as well, but coaching matters so much that you can't really assign a true spread to a game that's a win or go home scenario. I look at St. John's tonight, and that's personally who I'm riding. I would love to back Rick Pitino on this being a championship level run type of year. Same with Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo's been so close over the last decade and just hasn't gotten back to that stage. I think ultimately when you're talking, if I'm getting put on the spot and I'm saying there's a champion amongst these 4, I am going to take my chances against St. John's and Michigan State. Those would be the 2 teams I look at. We'll have to see if it comes to fruition here on Friday night.
Yep, I took the points. Couldn't get there with the money line on St. John's, but that's one that I'm very much riding out. And then on the other side of the bracket, I did like Iowa State in that game against Tennessee, but I think that as long as Michigan does not have a hiccup against Alabama, they just look like the top team in that region. I want to get your thoughts there, just because with Iowa State, love the way that they generate turnovers, but Joshua Jefferson, we're doing this before we know if he even played in the Sweet 16 game, but if he did, I would have to imagine he's much less than 100%. If he is 100%, then I think that that's an actual game changer, but it's sounding like that's not going to be the case, and I think that leaves just a really easy region for Michigan, which I said coming into the tournament that I felt like they got the best draw out of those 1 seeds.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing with Iowa State in particular is that they don't have the necessary depth to really lose those key pieces, and the key pieces for me, in my eyes, are Taman Lipsey, Milan Momcilovic, Jefferson. Well, if you take out Jefferson out of the fold, this team becomes a very obvious style of, please, Milan, hit the bailout 3. That is the strategy every possession down the floor, and they'll grind you defensively. They got guys who are coached well, coached with great technique, have great understanding of what their role is within the defensive side of the floor, but once you kind of whittle down to these top end teams, you no longer can kind of skate by playing teams like a Kentucky that are just all over the place. These are truly the high end elite type of teams. I think Jefferson, we saw that injury. I don't want to speculate too much and cast the future. I'm not a doctor, if you want to say that, but I just don't see him playing the next 2 games. I just don't know how that happens. And so from that standpoint, I just think Iowa State, unfortunately, is out of contention. And I'm kind of looking at Tennessee tonight or on Friday night here as we're recording. I think they win in advance. I don't think Tennessee is necessarily a championship level contender. And so that Miami, Michigan, Alabama game, I think, is the true catalyst to this side of the bracket. I think the winner is going to advance on to face, that Arizona contingent over there.
Yep, I do think that is going to be a really interesting game between Tennessee and Iowa State as we are recording this. I took the points, couldn't quite get there on the money line with Tennessee because I do always have concerns with their turnovers, but regardless, I do agree with you there, and that's going to be interesting to look at, and I do have to bring this up. I know that you're a man from the great state of Iowa, but that said, with North Carolina, their coaching search is right now on, and how do you take a look at that right now? Because it's going to be changing the sport. Right now, Billy Donovan actually looks like he's a leader in the clubhouse, which which that would be very good for the college landscape because you pluck a guy from the NBA ranks, that does not cause a lot of hoopla with regards to coaching carousel or anything like that. But if Billy Donovan turns it down, how do you take a look at it? Because there are rumors that Ben McCollum might be getting a call. Obviously, Mark Byington, Nate Oates, you go down the list, Tommy Lloyd. It seems like they're going to be calling a who's who of names, and I think that that's really going to be defining what we get this college basketball season.
Yeah, and as an Iowa fan and a Ben McCollum truther and just a guy that wants to see this man coach in Iowa for as long as I live, or as long as he can live, if that's the framework. Yeah, it scares the heck out of me that we're seeing a blue blood open right during this tournament run. I'm going to be appreciative of Ben McCollum's time in Iowa, even if it comes to an end after this one season. But at the same time, I'm praying North Carolina goes with that Billy Donovan option. Or I even saw a meme, total joke page from, I can't remember what site it was, but they were saying Phil Jackson was going to take the job. And ultimately, even though that was a total joke, it does kind of speak to the fact that North Carolina is going to swing for the fences here. And they can almost handpick the guy that they want. Some of these older dudes like an Izzo, Bettino, who are kind of fixated in their role, they're going to be solidified there, obviously. They're going to coach there probably until they die. But when you're talking about North Carolina, anybody else that's available on the market doesn't have that long-term tie to a program. They're available. That's just the reality. That's life-changing money. That's a life-changing opportunity. That's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity potentially. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, and especially if Kansas potentially opens with Bill Self and those health issues. Now another major domino falls, and it could shake up the entire landscape of the sport. Again, really hoping Ben McCollum is not one of those guys implicated, but it is what it is, and I'll be happy that we had this run here as an Iowa Hawkeye fan.
I'm not sure what the biggest industry out there in Iowa is, but whatever industry there, that money should be going to Ben McCollum. Absolutely.
Right,
I do agree with you
yes.
there. So that is going to be really interesting to watch. And I think that he would go to Kansas before he'd go to North Carolina. Personally, if that does open up, that's just me speaking, but we've got a lot to take a look at in the offseason. I'm sure that we'll get you on a ton, but we saw these last few games of the NCAA tournament. Rob, you're doing a great job of handicapping them all. You're getting into baseball and so much more. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, I appreciate you, hanging out with me in Vegas. It was a great time, and I'm looking forward to already the second time around for us when we get to hang out again and watch some games together. But, for those who are wanting to watch or bet alongside me, rather, during the March Madness, Major League Baseball season, Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I appreciate having me on, man.
It is always great to get Rob aboard, and it was great to watch the action with him last week. A profitable week for both of us, so that was a lot of fun. Rob, he does such an amazing job breaking down this great sport, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Rob for joining me on Cusco Superstar, part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming up next, just 2 games on the betting board for this college basketball Saturday, but they're big ones. I'll get you picks and analysis on both as we have some big shots.
Hi, I'm Chandler Garcia. As a PICU nurse and global health advocate, I've cared for women and children all over the world, from Costa Rica to Egypt to Kenya and beyond. And no matter where I go or how tough the conditions get, I always wear my FIGS. These scrubs are lightweight, breathable, and super soft, perfect for long shifts in any environment. They've got pockets in all the right places, the fit is flexible, and they're durable through every admission, surgery, and post-op. But it's not just about the scrubs. Another big part of what I love about FIGS is when they say they're committed to supporting healthcare workers all over the world, they mean it. I recently joined them on an impact trip to India where I worked in triage, caring for babies in a mobile clinic. My FIGS aren't just what I wear. They're part of the impact I want to make. Wherever my work takes me, FIGS helps me show up ready to make a difference while looking and feeling my best. Get 15% off your first order at wearfigs.com with code FIGSRX. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peters, and now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It was great to get Rob Donaldson aboard. He does such amazing work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on both games on the betting board for this college basketball Saturday as we hit some big shots.
Most financial establishments close at a certain time, but not here. It is time time for a side and total on every game on today's betting board bank shots.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at unit_D1. Very easy to go in Las Vegas rotation order when you only have 2 games on the board and they go in time order, so nice, clean, and easy there. Let's get things started. It's 6:29, 6:30. Illinois and Iowa do battle. Iowa is an underdog of between 6.5 to 7.5 points. Toss game between 137 to as high as a 138.5. I did take a shot on the over. I set my total at a 139. I do think that this is going to be close enough for late fouls, even though you've got 2 teams that are very, very slow with regards to their tempo. Out of 365 Division I teams, you've got Iowa clocking in at 365th. Meanwhile, for Illinois, about 291st. But man, oh man, this is an efficient Illinois offense. Currently, in terms of all of college basketball, entered into the Sweet 16, number 1 in terms of points scored on a per possession basis. Still there, even with the brick fest that we saw out there in Houston a few days ago. Meanwhile, Iowa has been able to do a rock solid job as well. In terms of points scored on a per possession basis, this team has been a top 30 team as well. And these are 2 very different teams with regards to their defense. For Iowa, they've been a top 15 team in terms of turnovers generated on a per possession basis. Out of 365 Division I teams, Illinois, they are currently 365th, but doing such a great job on the boards. Number 3 in the country in terms of percentage of the missed shots that result in an offensive rebound. Meanwhile, Iowa more around about 175th, but one thing Iowa's done a nice job of, not allowing a ton of second and third chances. About 92nd in terms of defensive rebound percentage. Tomislav Ivicic, along with his brother Big Z, have been able to combine for 11 rebounds per game. They are going to have the leg up there as in terms of defensive rebound percentage. You've got an Illinois team that's about 61st in the country, but if you look at road defensive rebound percentage, Iowa's actually been the better team. And they've got, in my opinion, the best do-it-all player in this game in Bennett Sturts. Despite the fact that this team plays oh so slowly, he's been able to supply the team with 19.5 points, 4.5 assists per game, shoots about 36% from 3. Tavion Banks, he shoots 45% from 3. Alvaro Folgueras, he was having a rough start to the season, but hits that big 3 against Florida. And for this Iowa team, even though they are going to give it up on the inside, outside the top 250 with regards to opponents' 2-point shooting percentage, Illinois 15th in the country in percentage of their field goal attempts that they take from 3-point range. Iowa also a top 25 team with their own 2-point shooting percentage, and Illinois, as Keaton Wagler has been so incredible, shooting about 41% from 3, 17 points per game. David Mirkovic, good versatility, 38% 3-point shooter with about 13.5 points per game, but I do think that Iowa finds a way to hold in there with the way that they're able to do a better job in terms of taking care of the ball and the way that they generate turnovers. I did set my line at 5. I'm willing to take the points, and I do like this total over, so my total 139. Wrap things up with 631, 632. You've got Arizona playing against Purdue. Purdue is an underdog here of anywhere between 5.5 to 6.5 points. Totals 153 to 153.5. Do like the under. I set my total at a 150. You've got a Purdue team that has been, in terms of points scored on a per possession basis, second in the country. That's number 1 in games played away from home, but they're super slow. 342nd in terms of total possessions per game. Arizona, they're fast, but they've been slowing down a little bit more here in the tournament, aside from when they played against Arkansas. They're about 59th in the country in terms of total possessions per game, and for this Arizona team, just a very well-rounded team. A top 12 team in terms of both points scored and points allowed on a per possession basis. Toby Awaka, along with Monteivas Krivas, these guys have been absolutely incredible, as right now they're combining for about 17.3 rebounds per game. Braden Burries, I feel like, has been one of the most improved players in all of college basketball. Give you 16 plus points per contest. Koa Pete, he does a little bit of everything. 14 points, 5.5 boards, 2.5 assists per game. But I do think that the experience of Purdue having a backcourt that has been to a national title before is going to be very big in this game. Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, they combine for about 28.5 points per game. Smith just does such a great job in terms of taking care of the ball. Purdue top 12 team in terms of fewest turnovers on a per possession basis. And Arizona, they're solid at taking care of the ball. Not necessarily amazing though. They will have a few turnovers here and there. And for this Purdue team, well, the defense still has not been savory. They are outside the top 150 in terms of points allowed on a per possession basis. They are giving up 2.1 points fewer per 100 possessions when they're away from home rather than when they are at home. You have a team that actually has a better defensive rebound percentage away from home than Arizona, with having a pair of guys in Oscar Clough, Trey Kaufman-Renn, combining for 15.9 rebounds per game. Kaufman-Renn is able to give you 14 points per game. Now where this team is really vulnerable is their 2-point shooting defense. For Purdue, they're outside the top 235 with that regard, and this is an Arizona team that ranks in the top 35 with regards to percentage of their field goal attempts that come from inside the 3-point line. But I do think that Purdue's backcourt is going to allow them to remain lively, and I do think that this is going to be a slow down game. Like the under, so I total 150, made my line 2, so taking the points with Purdue, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, Larry they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every game every day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Chandler Garcia. As a PICU nurse and global health advocate, I've cared for women and children all over the world, from Costa Rica to Egypt to Kenya and beyond. And no matter where I go or how tough the conditions get, I always wear my figs. These scrubs are lightweight, breathable, and super soft, perfect for long shifts in any environment. They've got pockets in all the right places, the fit is flexible, and they're durable through every admission, surgery, and post-op. But it's not just about the scrubs. Another big part of what I love about Figs is when they say they're committed to supporting healthcare workers all over the world, they mean it. I recently joined them on an impact trip to India where I worked in triage, caring for babies in a mobile clinic. My Figs aren't just what I wear. They're part of the impact I want to make. Wherever my work takes me, Figs helps me show up ready to make a difference while looking and feeling my best. Get 15% off your first order at wearfigs.com with code FIGSRX. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX.